Previously on Lost.
Ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da da da. And he's not afraid of John.
Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and this is Superhero Rewind. Much like Two-Face is said to be, Batman Forever is of two minds about everything. On the one hand, it's a more light-hearted film than the previous two, as ordered by Warner Brothers after complaints from parents that Batman Returns was too dark. You know, sometimes Batman seems like a pair of pants. Every few years, whatever is in goes out of fashion, so companies have to make something else, only to start making the same thing again later on. We liked a sillier Batman in the 60s, then we wanted a dark and edgy one in the 80s, then when it got too dark and edgy, we started pulling back toward the campy again. I'm not saying the franchise should have stayed with the trend Batman Returns was setting. I'm saying that the problem with that film wasn't that it was too dark, it's that nothing in it really made any sense. Batman Forever is the middle-of-the-road Batman movie. It manages to take itself far more seriously than you might expect with the extremely absurd ideas and lines of dialogue it brings to the screen. So we've got a Batman movie with a lot of neon, plenty of gratuitous action scenes, two villains who run around spewing corny one-liners and laughing more often than they say anything, a Batmobile that drives up the sides of buildings, a Batsuit with rocket boots, a Riddler symbol, and yes, nipples on Robin's Batsuit. We've also finally got a Batman movie that at least makes the attempt at exploring Batman's character, trying to figure out why he's Batman and how it tortures him, playing Robin pretty seriously and doing a good job of paralleling his and Batman's backgrounds. In the film, Riddler says the mother of all riddles is, who is Batman? I think the mother of all riddles really is, how is this movie not a complete and utter disaster? So the film opens with Batman fighting Two-Face, who is trying to kill him to get revenge for getting acid thrown in his face in a courtroom years earlier. This sets up his entire character motivation for the film, so keep this in mind because it'll be very important later. The only thing he wants to do is kill Batman. Now, Schumaker knows we're used to this formula by now, so he skips all pretense and immediately introduces the love interest in the middle of all this. That's right, Batman stands there trading innuendo with Dr. Chase Meridian during a hostage situation. Gordon is there too, and since he's completely incompetent, he actually asks if there's any way they can reason with this madman, despite the fact that this can't be the first time he's seen Two-Face in action. Seriously, if you're the police commissioner, doesn't that mean you were a detective at some point in your career? I wouldn't be surprised if Batman didn't have to give Gordon a lift back to the police department because he locked his keys in his car. Of course, Two-Face doesn't manage to kill Batman, but he does escape. Get used to this because it happens a lot. Batman and Two-Face remind me of Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner in this movie. Two-Face sets up an elaborate trap, Batman escapes, Two-Face whines a lot, and then they do it all over again. Two-Face really is the biggest disappointment in this movie. I'm tired of insanity being villains' only motivation. I'm not saying that every villain has to be completely humanized or that we have to always like them. That can also become an obnoxious and predictable formula like Sandman in Spider-Man 3, who we're supposed to appreciate despite his crimes just because he has a daughter he never gets to see. The trouble is, Two-Face is a complex and very interesting villain in Batman lore. Now, he's not always written right, and I think that's because not everyone who writes him understands him. He's supposed to have an alternate personality that is taken over, and he flips a coin not because he can't make up his mind about anything, but because he thinks that's what justice is, random luck. Now, Two-Face does say this at the beginning of the movie, that justice is luck, and that's why he flips his coin, but then he manipulates the outcome of that coin toss to whatever he wanted to do in the first place. He flips the coin to decide whether to kill this guard. It comes up heads. So instead of killing him, he uses him as bait for Batman, and he's probably going to die anyway. And toward the end of the film, there's actually a scene where he keeps flipping the coin until it comes up tails. Seriously? Why even flip it? You've already made up your mind. Unlike the first two films, this one actually comes up with some themes and tries to run with them. It doesn't always work, but I have to commend it on trying to be about something rather than just throwing up a bunch of stuff on screen and saying, well, it's a superhero film, so as long as good guys and bad guys are fighting, there's cool cars and gadgets, there's a romantic angle for the ladies, and someone dies at the end, people will love it. It deals with the nature of revenge and how that relates to remorse. That's a big idea for this kind of summer blockbuster. It's easy to have villains who want revenge. That's Two-Face, and his reasons aren't well thought out. But what's done with Batman and Robin is really quite good. Two-Face shows up at the circus, once again trying to smoke out Batman so he can kill him. The Graysons, a family of trapeze artists, are up on the wires and they decide they can stop Two-Face. This is very cool. They don't just get caught in the crossfire. They get killed by Two-Face intentionally because they're proactively trying to prevent him from hurting people. We don't get to know these people, but Dick Grayson is instantly made a likable character because he and his parents together tried to be heroes, and it's easy to understand why it's such a blow to him when they're killed. Sure, anyone would have unimaginable pain if their parents were murdered, but in a film, especially one where there isn't time to explore those characters, it's important to show why he loves them. So Dick comes away with this with two things. He wants Two-Face dead, and he's responsible for their deaths. This is a complex idea. He doesn't just want to kill the bad guy for revenge. He feels personally responsible because he didn't do anything to stop it. He was out getting rid of a bomb that would have killed everyone there, but a person in this situation would be beyond reason. What's important is that his family is dead, he's not, and he didn't stop it. He didn't kill them directly, that was Two-Face, and so he feels the only way to make the pain go away is to do what he should have done in the first place. Get rid of the threat that killed his parents. This adds dimension to Batman, too, because as all of this is being developed, he tells Alfred, "I killed them." He corrects himself and says, Two-Face killed that boy's parents. What he really meant was that he killed his own parents because, like Dick, he didn't do anything to stop it. We find that Bruce has repressed memories about his childhood. He remembers his parents being shot, but not much that happened around that. I can buy this. The moment itself overshadows all other moments, but he starts having flashes about it. More and more of it comes to him in dreams. He tells Chase that his father had a diary, and that it was at the funeral. He grabbed the diary and ran out with it into the night, until he fell into the Batcave, and that's where he saw the bat that inspired him to become Batman. It's hard to understand how he could repress this. Are we to believe he doesn't remember what made him become Batman? That he just went with the bat motif and never looked back? And now that's so deeply integrated into his psyche that he doesn't remember that moment? I don't think that's the idea at all, though it is an interesting one. Schumaker ended up cutting the part of all of this that would have tied the whole thing together. We understand why Dick feels responsible for his family's murder, but not why Bruce does. There's a deleted scene where Bruce remembers reading the journal, and his father writes that he and his wife wanted to stay in that night, but Bruce insisted on seeing a movie, so they went out. So he feels it's his fault they were killed, because if it weren't for him, they wouldn't have even been there. There is no excuse for leaving this out of the movie. It's the best idea in the film. It validates putting Robin in the movie because it gives real depth to Batman as a character, and it's the missing piece that makes the subplot feel unfinished. I would probably rate the movie higher if it was still there.